Hello again, fellow travelers through time's strangest corridors. You're listening to History's Hidden Weird, the show that reminds you history is stranger, scarier, and often more inspiring than fiction. I'm your host, Quinn Strange. Today's story sounds like it couldn't possibly be true. It reads like a bad joke or an improbable movie pitch. One man, two cities, two nuclear bombs, and he lives to tell the tale. But this story is very real. It happened in Japan, 1945, in the final days of World War II. And at its center is a quiet man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi, an engineer, a father, and, somehow, a survivor of both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings. Let's set the scene. In the summer of 1945, the Pacific War was reaching its terrifying climax. Germany had surrendered in May, but Japan continued to resist, and the Allies were growing desperate for a swift end. Meanwhile, a terrifying new weapon had just emerged from the secretive bowels of the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb. The U.S. selected Hiroshima as its first target. A city of military significance, but also home to tens of thousands of civilians. Enter Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He was a 29-year-old naval engineer working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. On August 6, 1945, he was in Hiroshima on a business trip, preparing to leave after 3 months working on a shipbuilding design. That morning, he was walking to the docks, briefcase in hand, when he looked up and saw something strange, a blinding flash of light in the sky. The little boy atomic bomb, dropped by the US B-29 bomber Enola Gay, had just detonated. Yamaguchi was about 3 kilometers from ground zero. Close enough to be thrown through the air. The blast ruptured his eardrums, blinded him temporarily, and burned the left side of his body. His face and arms were scorched. He was injured, deafened, and covered in debris. And yet, somehow, he lived. Dazed and burned, he found his way to a nearby shelter. The city around him had been reduced to rubble. Fires raged. The sky was dark with soot. Thousands of people, many of them civilians, were dead or dying. But Yamaguchi managed to survive the night and, unbelievably, made his way to the train station 2 days later. The trains were still running. So on August 8, he boarded a train back to his hometown of Nagasaki. Yes, Nagasaki. When he arrived, he went straight to the hospital to treat his wounds, and then reported to work at Mitsubishi the next morning. He tried to explain what had happened in Hiroshima, how one single bomb had destroyed an entire city. His co-workers and supervisors didn't believe him. The story was too insane. And then, the next day, August 9, 1945, at 11:02 a.m., the second atomic bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, exploded over Nagasaki. And Yamaguchi was again about 3 kilometers from ground zero. This time, he was inside a reinforced building. The blast still knocked him off his feet and destroyed the office. But somehow, again, he survived. The building absorbed enough of the shockwave to protect him from the worst of it. Let's pause here and really think about what just happened. In the span of 3 days, Tsutomu Yamaguchi experienced the only 2 nuclear attacks ever launched in human warfare, from within both cities. He suffered horrific burns, permanent hearing loss, radiation sickness, and a lifetime of trauma. But he lived. He crawled out of one destroyed city and into another, and lived to see both burn. You'd expect the story to end there, another anonymous victim in an unimaginable horror. But no. Tsutomu Yamaguchi went on to live a long, full life. He became a teacher, an advocate, and a quiet voice for peace. He recovered, raised a family, and eventually began speaking publicly about his experiences, though not until decades later. For much of his life, he avoided the spotlight. In post-war Japan, hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors, were often stigmatized. Many suffered in silence. It wasn't until the 2000s that Yamaguchi began speaking to the media. In 2006, he submitted official documents to the Japanese government, asking for recognition that he had been in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the bombings. It was something no one had ever requested, because, frankly, no one imagined it was possible. In 2009, just a year before his death, the Japanese government finally recognized Tsutomu Yamaguchi as the only person officially documented to have survived both bombings. He passed away in 2010 at the age of 93. His death was attributed to stomach cancer, possibly linked to his exposure to radiation. But still, he lived a lifetime longer than almost anyone would have predicted in 1945. So how do we even process this story? It's weird. It's tragic. It's almost mythical. Some people call him the unluckiest man in the world. Others call him the luckiest. But maybe he was just a man caught in the gears of history and lived to walk away from them. In interviews, Yamaguchi rarely expressed bitterness. He was heartbroken, haunted, but not vengeful. He once said, and I quote, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings." Let that sit with you. There's something weirdly poetic about Tsutomu Yamaguchi's story. It sits at the crossroads of destruction and survival, chance and choice, war and peace. It's a story so unbelievable, so rare, it could only belong to history's hidden weird. So the next time someone tells you history is boring, remind them that there was once a man who survived not one, but 2 nuclear explosions, and lived to tell the world not just how he survived, but why we should never let it happen again. I'm Quinn Strange, and this has been History's Hidden Weird. If today's episode shook you, inspired you, or just left you stunned, share it with someone who thinks they've heard all the wild stories. Because sometimes, the weirdest tales are the real ones. If you liked today's episode, leave a review, share with your weird history-loving friends, and hit follow. Have a strange story you want us to cover? Comment below and we will see what we can do. Until next time, stay weird.